Okay, everybody, let's get kicked off. If you're here to learn how to leverage tech stack to measure social selling, you're in the right spot. What I'm going to do is pass the ball to my esteemed colleague here, Jon Ferrara, and he's going to be able to walk us through and kick us off. Jon?
Right here, Jamie. Can you see my screen okay?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So first off, I'd like to welcome our global community to this webinar about how to measure social selling success at every stage of your sales process. And I'm super excited to have my dear friend, Jamie Shanks from Sales for Life here to join me, because Jamie is somebody who practices what he preaches. Jamie and I first met years ago when we were both attending as panelists and speakers at a conference on the emergence of social and its application to business. And you know what, Jamie, you immediately stood out because of one thing. Can you guess?
I'm a great dresser.
Damn right. So Jamie was wearing an orange jacket with a handkerchief in his pocket. I really believe that in order to be successful in life today, you need to stand out from the crowd. And Jamie does that not only with the way that he talks and walks, but the way he dresses too. And he used that skill to build not only his brand, but the Sales for Life brand. And what I asked Jamie to join us here today is not to talk about the why of social selling, but the how. And how do you do it and how do you measure it? And I think there's no better person to do that than somebody who teaches businesses to do that globally on a daily basis. He's helped pioneer the training and the evolution of applying sales to sales professionals at Fortune 500 companies globally. And so, Jamie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much for the invite. I really appreciate the opportunity.
You bet, you bet. And so what I'd like to do is let Jamie talk a little bit about Sales for Life and what they do. Jamie?
Fantastic. So basically 5 years ago, we were two guys and a dog as a small consulting firm. And whether it was through happenstance or serendipity, basically recognized that ourselves as sales professionals, we were failing as we were analog sellers moving into a digital world. And I stumbled upon the ability to leverage tools like LinkedIn and Twitter to book meetings and drive business with people just like Jon to create new opportunities for my small consulting firm. And that stemmed an idea that the term social selling, which didn't exist at the time, could be leveraged to help other professional sellers be able to drive revenue impact. So basically, over the last 5 years, we've built the de facto standard, the world's largest social selling training company as a professional services firm and training platform. Because at the end of the day, our job is to move sellers from an analog world to a digital world because our buyers have evolved and we just think there's a smarter way to serve them. So that's us in a nutshell. We're a professional services firm that serves 300 plus global customers around the world.
Fantastic, Jamie. Thank you for that summary. And what I'd like to do before I talk about the agenda is I'd like to encourage you all to ask questions, because that's how we all learn, is by somebody asking a question. And what we're going to do is we've got a staff behind the scenes from both Sales for Life and Nimble that can answer your questions. And I know that you have questions about how do you get out there in the social business river, build a brand, build a company, and scale it today using the diverse tech stack that are out there. And so please do get in there and ask questions. And so let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. So as I said before, I don't think you need to be told that today we're overconnected and overcommunicated, and that social media has changed the way that people work, play, buy, and sell. And that for you to be able to be top of mind with your customer, that you need to become their trusted advisor and be part of their journey throughout the cycle, not just when they buy, but when they recommend to their friends of what they should buy as well. And so we're going to talk about what is the role of sales leadership and social selling, how to set up the right programs to measure success. What do you need to do in order to determine what activities that need to be done and how to measure that? And what is your ICP? ICP stands for Ideal Customer Profile, because if you don't know who your best prospects and customers are, how can you direct your efforts to go after them, to build relationships with them, and to be able to serve them? And I love number 6. Don't be reliant on marketing. Jamie, I really believe that the best salespeople have always been people that take their prospecting on themselves and are working on a daily basis to build their own funnel from a variety of means. What do you think?
Well, and you've even probably heard the term. Some people will call them smarketers. Some will call them micro marketers. At the end of the day, if my territory was the state of Florida and I'm at a global company, my marketing team isn't thinking about the 25 accounts that I have in Tampa Bay. My job is to put a little bit of the left brain and the right brain together and be able to develop my own marketing strategies for my own named accounts, because my marketing team is thinking about the overall brand.
Yes, exactly. And you know, my best salespeople back in the gold mine days used to do that with email and fax. Today, you have social, and it's just a whole new way of being able to stay top of mind. And as Mae West said, out of sight is out of mind, and out of mind is out of money, honey. And then
love it.
We also want to talk about the new buyer journey, the cycle of a lead, and how do you stay top of mind with those customers. So Jamie, why don't you walk us through the next few slides about social selling and why it's a priority.
And I wanted to come on the webcam here because I want to emphasize the importance that sales leadership have in driving any transformation in the organization. The one that we're happening to be talking about today is a digital transformation of the sales and marketing department. We believe when they come together, we call it team revenue, right? Sales and marketing just working as one machine. But what you see in front of you, and John, if you just flip, I know there was a jump up from Skype here, but if you flip back to the slides, basically this was done as a study from Sales for Life. And the most important piece here, and what I recommend is we wrote a blog about something like this yesterday. It's called WILL, which stands for What Does Ideal Look Like? I highly recommend that you do this, because what you're going to determine, what we determined, is there is a 100% failure rate. We have trained 310 global customers around the world, a 100% failure rate. If sales leadership is not involved during the implementation process, the planning and the execution of moving their sales professionals from analog to digital, you must get the buy-in from frontline sales managers, who are the ones that are going to drive accountability, are the ones that are going to run one-on-ones with sales professionals, and help them understand what activity directly influences and correlates to sales objectives. So John, if you flip to the next slide, what's critical here is, and I hope that those that are on the call have overcome internally why you should change. Hopefully your buyers helped you understand this already. Your buyer changed, your buyer's arming themselves with information to make informed decisions. The question is, are you helping them along the journey? But basically, what I need you to do now is start acquiring information on how to deploy it. Whether you try to cobble together your own proof of concept or you use other parties to do so, you need to have empirical evidence that success can be driven. And so if we flip to the next slide, I'm going to help you understand ideas around how to measure. Okay, I'm going to give you some best practices. Now, after doing this enough times, you'll learn that the important piece is the outcome of a business case that basically paints an A/B test. If you really want to be able to drive this in your business, you have to be able to show that status quo gets the business to here. But digital and social selling through empirical evidence, whether it's the creation of new leads or opportunities or driving new partnerships, has empirically moved the business towards what is known as business outcomes, right? Activity influences sales objectives. Sales objectives that align to business outcomes are what drives a company. So if you move to the next slide, John, what I'd like everybody to do, take this slide. You can Google it. I mean, we didn't create it. It's called the Kirkpatrick Model. It is the de facto standard to which all enablement programs around the world, no matter what you're training, should all be measured upon. If your enablement team or sales operations team doesn't come to you with a plan to measure using this basic outline, you are in the wrong spot in sales enablement and operations. Here's how it works. Basically, what I'd like you to do is reverse engineer where you want to get to. Those are known as business outcomes. So in a business outcome, that's the return on investment at the top. Now sinking down the line, basically to the bottom of the pyramid, you're going to identify data points that are going to help you build a business case. You can't just rely on the fact that you need to create 50 new opportunities. And if you don't, that is the difference between success or failure of social selling, because that's kind of asinine. That doesn't even make sense. What we want to do is look for leading, current, and lagging indicators that get us along a digital journey. So as an example, the first layer you have to look at is, do my sales professionals want to change? Satisfaction. Use surveys, net promoter scores. Ask them flat out, would you recommend this to other sellers? Is this important to you? Then you need to chunk it up to learning. I am the biggest believer that learning has a direct correlation to outcomes, meaning those that are willing to learn a new skill and apply it in the market are more likely to outperform their peers. So use data points such as, are they consuming new information? Test them on the knowledge. Give them a certification. And then you want to test against impact, behavioral change, such as, have they grown their social network around certain accounts? Have they started to socially surround those particular accounts? Have they identified new accounts to penetrate based on social proximity? You want to ensure that the learning is translating into action. Then it moves to results. You have to have a quantifiable scale of new leads, new opportunities, new pipeline coverage, and ultimately new sales bookings that are created, either influenced and attributed, meaning social was part of the mix, or directly created from sourced of things like LinkedIn and Twitter, which are part of social selling. So if you create layers and have data points along a journey, knowing that it's going to take you 90, 180, 365 days to build a true business case, now along the journey, you have baby stories, baby step stories that you can give people to say, it is working. Look at the data points of where we were to where we're going. This basic rudimentary model is going to help you build a business case of leading, current, and lagging indicators. John, if you don't mind flicking to the next slide. So basically what we're trying to do is correlate. And please, if you were to, after doing this enough times, you're going to have the Pareto's curve or Pareto law basically inside your organization. 20% of the impact is, or 80% of the impact is made by 20% of the sellers. And what you're going to have is A, B, and C players in your organization. A players will learn a couple new tips, they'll implement them, but they'll be A players no matter what. What you're really trying to move is the core. The core, and there's been studies on it, that if you can move the core performer, the B player, by 5% more sales uplift, but you do this at mass, you're talking about 50 or 60% swing in your business. And then your C player, let learning help you determine who's garbage, who's halfway out the door in your business. I recommend that you use learning as a litmus test to determine who's willing to change and evolve in the 21st century with you, and help you determine that learning actually does have a direct correlation to action and results. So John,
Jamie, I have a comment here. I really believe that the best way to motivate another human being is to teach and tell them what's in it for them. Because I think that most people are really concerned about themselves and their welfare and their growth. And I think one of the great aspects of social selling is you're building your brand and you're building your network, Mr. Salesperson or Miss Salesperson. And the benefit is your network is your net worth. Your personal brand plus your professional network will help you achieve your goals in life. And if you can empower them to build their brand and build their network, not only will they be more effective for themselves, but also for the organization. And I think that's one of the great benefits of social selling. What do you think?
Oh, and actually, Justin Schreiber, the chief marketing officer at LinkedIn, presented this data about a year ago, that that have become deemed, we'll call them deemed social sellers. They've truly made a digital transformation. The probability of them becoming vice presidents of a business versus those that don't become social, the acceleration of their career, and I don't want to misquote the stat, I'd love to find it, but it literally cut years off their path of moving from whether it was SDR to AE, from AE to an RVP of a region, or an RVP to an AVP or an EVP. Because what it does is it creates an exposure both internally and externally. So what's in it for me? I have no disbelief that everybody here at Sales for Life is going to retire here. This is a vehicle for people to accelerate their career for a period of time. And my hope is that the exposure and the social selling exposure actually helps people get on a career path and a velocity of a career path way faster than they would have done in the analog world.
Amen. And if you want an example of that, just Google Vala Ashfar. Vala was in customer service for a technology company on the East Coast, used social to build his brand. He did that so well that the company got bought, and he eventually became the senior VP of digital engagement at Salesforce.
Absolutely. And I've been following him for years. And so I was talking about an article, and if you could read the article, it was a fantastic advice I got from an individual named Chad Nuss over at Inside Out in Tampa Bay. Long of the short was we, like every business, go through peaks and valleys and plateaus. And we had hit a bit of a sales plateau in the summer. I was frustrated, couldn't figure out why we couldn't get off this number. Well, he gave me this idea, and he gave me this template in which you take all of your past customers and you map them and you build a what's ideal look like. So you take all these data points. For us, there was about 25 data points rolled up into 6 categories. Demographics, what was the mindset when they called us or we called them? Were they self-learning, content consumption, or did we have to just pound it into their head? Number 4, customer procurement process. Was this just like chewing glass going through the procurement process, or did it have the natural velocity of the deal it was supposed to? Was the implementation strong? Did it go on time? Did it go on budget? Did they follow our direction? And then finally, was there success on both parties? So results, return on investment, CAC to LTV ratio, account stickiness, and so forth. Long of the short is this changed the way we look at our customer, because it took emotion out of the equation and it helped us look at logic. And it was so telling as to where we were making mistakes in our sales process. We were keeping customers in our sales pipeline because we liked them, not because we actually could see a great fit with our business. So it is an important part of social selling, because when I start then engaging customers and educating customers, I'm armed with information to realize, am I pushing a rock uphill right now? Or am I working with the type of people that have a higher probability of buying from me?
Jamie, I love this concept of will. And it really goes to the heart of all businesses is that they have a gold mine in the data that's in their business, especially in their accounting systems, because it's a database of people that they've sold to historically. And if you could unlock data and enrich it with people and company information, and then analyze that to get your ideal customer profile, not only can you go back to those customers to ask for additional sales and ask for referrals, but you could build yourself as a top of mind so that when that person makes another buying decision, they not only call you, but they drag their friends with them. And I think that's a hidden secret, is that today in most businesses, between departments, sales, marketing, customer service, accounting, and social media, there's separate databases and there's walls between departments. And I really believe that for companies to be successful today, they need to rip those walls down, connect the databases, begin to enrich that data, and to be able to figure out who is my ideal customer, and then to be able to focus your target right there.
Yeah, absolutely, John. And there's a statistic that I keep in the back of my head as an entrepreneur for years. it is 6 times cheaper and easier to sell to someone you have already sold to in the past than it is to try to find somebody brand new off the street that has never heard of you. And so if you, to your point, if you can centralize this information and then using a bit of intelligence, peel back what accounts have the highest or best speed to revenue opportunity, that's where we should focus our time. And in fact, you know what I could do, John, is I'll show you my tech stack. I'll show you just some of the tools that we use. And if you pass me presenter rights, I'll share my screen and I'll show you some of the tools.
Awesome. Let's do that. Controls coming to you now.
Okay, so I'm going to show my screen. And I'm going to use a real life example, everybody. And it kind of comes to John's point. This happens to be a gentleman at Workday named John Dogan. So John and I had met in previous engagements. He was living in Australia when we had engagements in Australia. He moved to the United States. Now he's leading an enablement department over at Workday. Well, to the very point that John was making, imagine like all of this information centralized and what it could do for you. And that's how we re-engaged and unearthed this information with John, and now have created an opportunity. So I'll take my webcam off for a second. But for us in a tech stack, we create 5 different sources of leads. So we have inbound, which you're seeing through here, marketing automation. We have account-based sales development, which is outbound. And our marketing team helps us choose which accounts we should go after, not based on wallet share, meaning the largest companies in the world, but based on social proximity, based on the sphere of influence of our previous engagements. And then you have channel, you have customer referral, and you have customer expansion. So in this example, this is an example of an intermixture between inbound and channel relationship that has brought this Workday opportunity. So we use HubSpot, and that HubSpot intelligence is not only seen for the sales professional here in HubSpot, but also viewable in Salesforce, because we need to understand the customer's content consumption story. What are they reading? What aren't they reading? When I send them messages, are they actually engaged in them? When we actually engage people, though, we'll engage through a tool called SalesLoft. So the whole reason here is it keeps us, in the corporate real estate days, you would call this on time, on budget. What that really does is it puts us in a state of being accountable to a sequence or a cadence that ensures that we're making the touch points when we're supposed to make the touch points. We're not telling our sales leaders, oh yeah, I reached out 5 times, when in fact you reached out twice, right? It keeps us on pace every maybe 3rd day, every week, depending on the path that they're on, to engage that customer with something relevant. So we use this tool as kind of the front end to our engagement process, but we need something intelligent to stay. So there's a variety of things that we'll do. As an example, my personal favorite in a touchpoint cadence, and it's built right into SalesLoft, but is to leverage tools like Vidyard Viewed It. So it's reading a different video camera here, but for me, I love making personal videos, whether it's a personal video with camera only, or in fact, you can see that I'm making something where it's a screen-in-screen, where I'm demoing or talking about best practices, and I can share this with customers. I can track their engagement. I can embed this in a LinkedIn point drive as an example. So, all things that I love to leverage. And then, of course, I will engage people through a variety of different mediums. I may tweet them a message. I may use LinkedIn InMails. I may build them a custom point drive. I may send it via smoke signal or email or mail it to them. That's all part of sales, right? Just messaging through LinkedIn is just one medium, a host of mediums that we will use. And as we go through a journey, I need to continuously educate the buyer. So we use a content library, you see here, Everyone Social, where I may choose whether it's by buyer persona or it's by asset type or stage in a journey. So I may, if they're still at the Y social selling, I can dip into my Y category and it pulls me top of the funnel type of information. Or if I need to get very tactical I could share them, deep tips, tricks, and tactics. We use this content library, and then of course, all of this information resides in our CRM, and including that HubSpot information, the Vidyard Viewed information, the SalesLoft information. It's all tied together so we can have more contextual conversations. So, John, it's not perfect, but what it does is it gives us enough information to appear smart. How's that? John, you still alive?
Yes, I love it, Jamie. So I love how you opened up your kimono and showed people the exact stack that you're using today in order for you to be able to not only build the Sales for Life brand, but to be able to convert those eyeballs into a mutually beneficial, measurable business outcome. In fact, Cameron Brain and I have become dear friends, the CEO of Everyone Social, over the past week. And I love what they're doing in regards to being able to build a platform to share content. So,
absolutely. Well, I hope that this was valuable. I'll take my webcam off, but the interconnection of all of these data points is the key here to ensure that nothing gets kind of lost in the shuffle.
Amen. Amen. And so if you look at the sales and marketing technologies tech stack, can you guys see my screen again?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're back. You have a lot of tabs.
Right. So, yes, I do. I'm a tab addict. So if you look at the sales and marketing technology stack that Sales for Life uses, it is varied and it's not inexpensive. What do you figure you spend a year on your sales and marketing technology stack, and how many salespeople does it serve?
Yeah, so we spend, this would be well into the six figures. It's over 100,000 USD because our HubSpot database, is in the tens and tens and tens of thousands, and you have Salesforce runs at 20, 30,000 USD. I say USD because I'm a Canadian company. And then our LinkedIn Navigator licenses are 1,000 USD per person. And, we have a team of 15 to service of total people. But, we give a lot of this technology even to non-sellers. Our marketing team, our customer success, all have this same technology.
Yeah. And so I think that for the masses out there to be able to adopt a sales and marketing technology stack that is as rich as yours and to use it and to afford it, I think is no small feat. In fact, there's probably tools you haven't talked about like Braintree and Discover.org that you use for data enrichment as well, isn't there?
Oh, there is. And if you add it all up, it's more than my salary. How's that?
You're not paying yourself enough, Jamie.
Yeah, apparently.
So what I'd like to do is I'd like to open up the kimono at Nimble and talk about our social sales and marketing technology tech stack and journey, about how we've built the Nimble brand, because this is what we want to impart to you is not the why, but the how. And so today, if you look at the tools that you need in order to manage the customer lifecycle, I think it could be overwhelming for those outside of the social tech Kool-Aid drinking coast. And that's one of the reasons why I got in the business, because I believe that the sales funnel is archaic, that this isn't the journey of your buyers anymore, that it's really more of a pretzel. In fact, if you want to learn about customer journey, Google McKinsey customer journey, and you'll see a 25-page PDF that really explains the new ways that we work, play, buy, and sell. But ultimately, for you to be top of mind with their customers, so when they do make a buying decision, they pick up the phone and they call you, you need to be walking in their digital footprint, adding value to the conversation, and building influence to become their trusted advisor. Because I really believe that a company brand is built on the promises that you make and the experience that you deliver. And if you can align those two, you could build a gold mine. I know I did. And the way that we did that was by empowering our customer-facing business team members to build their brand and build relationships with the customers. And that's why I'm such a believer in customer and employee advocacy and helping your team members grow, because that's your job as a leader, isn't it, Jamie, is to empower your team members to grow as rapidly and as successfully as possible. What do you think?
Yeah, and be willing to experiment and learn and fail and all of it.
Yeah. And so I think the best way for you to stay top of mind with your customers is to teach them to fish. I think you should stop talking about your products and services. I think that if you spend your time on a regular basis figuring out how you can help your customers become better, smarter, faster, and that was the intent of your company and the focus of your messaging, instead of talking about how great your products and services are, you're talking about how other people can become great. And I have a simple acronym for that. I call it the 5 E's of social business. Educate, enchant, engage, embrace, and empower your customers. And if you do that, you're going to drive so many eyeballs to your business that you won't know what to do with them. And I'm going to tell you how we've done that at Nimble. So if you can imagine what it was like for me when I sold Goldmine and spent 10 years raising 3 babies and got back in this business in the beginning of the 2010, 11, and 12, I had to not only build my brand, but the Nimble brand in a market that had totally evolved. And what I did is I went out and figured out who is the trusted advisor of my prospect in around the areas of promise of my products and services. And I began to share their content and to attribute their name appropriately. And so rather than me going out and talking about myself or even having to go and create content, I would go and identify the influencers of my core prospects like Amar and to be able to share that content on a daily basis. And so what we've done is we've identified the key influencers of our core prospects like Matt Hines, like Jamie, like other thought leaders in social sales and marketing. And what we do is we queue that content up, hashtag it appropriately with the proper category, pound sales, pound marketing, etc. And then what we do is we not only share it on the Nimble brand, but we also share it on the team member brands, because I believe that you need to empower your customer-facing business team members to build their brands as well. And then what happens is not only do we then get these +1 likes, comment, retweets, and otherwise engagements from people looking to be better, smarter, faster at social sales and marketing, but we also get bites from that person's audience as well as the person themselves. And then what we do is we reel that relationship in, and this person becomes an influencer, a user of our products, and a storyteller for us. And I believe that you can't just focus on prospects and customers today. You need to focus on their influencers as well. And any business has any business prospects have certain influencers. For instance, Jamie's influencer for some of his decision makers might be whom? Who would be key influencers for your decision makers in your journey?
John, this is so perfect because you're putting me in a time machine to when we started Sales for Life. I did, because the word social selling didn't exist. I looked up the word Sales 2.0 in the summer of 2012. That was the hottest topic, and it identified Ken Krogh, Trish Bertuzzi, and Anna Casilli, and also Jill Conrad. I basically made it a mission to not only share their content to get onto their radar, but to also meet them, because I realized that inside Ken Krogh's network were all the customers, and there's Jill Conrad right there. All the customers I would ever need, I could live off of their influence. And so if I got on their radar and people thought I was part of Ken Krogh's club, so to speak, that when they looked at InsideSales.com, they would also think, well, what's this Sales for Life? Because they seem to be affiliated with them. And the same buyer persona, the VP of sales, both Ken and I were going after. So this is absolutely the entrepreneurial kind of like the guerrilla marketing hack to building a business.
And you know what, Jamie, what's interesting is I use this same hack to build Goldmine. So back in the day, I needed access millions of prospects and customers in small, medium, large, and enterprise companies to sell them Goldmine before Outlook and Salesforce existed. So we were both combined. How do you sell that If you're just a kid in an apartment, I cold called every Novell reseller who was the trusted advisor to those businesses. They sold the network and I had the application to drive on top of it. And I'm basically replicating the same thing at Nimble. So now that we basically built the brand, we're generating eyeballs and we generate up to about 100,000 uniques per month on our website. What do we do with those eyeballs? So what do you do with an eyeball when you get it in your business? So most people go and put it inside of some type of market automation system. And I call this MailChimp to Marketo. Basically, you're going to use something like a MailChimp or maybe something like a HubSpot. But ultimately, you're going to put the eyeball in something to lead nurture it till it's marketing qualified. Then what you do is you put it inside the CRM and you tell your sales reps to go get them. And I call this Nimble to Salesforce because there's a wide variety of tools that you could use. And probably many people who are listening to this call use Salesforce. Now, the thing is if you put a lead into Salesforce, the first thing the salesperson has to do is they have to go Google who that person is and figure out who that person is and what their business is about, and then go log that in the CRM. And that's why we built Nimble, so you don't have to do that. And I'm going to tell you a story about Ken Krog. So I'm inside of Salesforce and I'm using Nimble inside Salesforce and I'm nibbling Ken Krog. Nimble will automatically build a record for any lead that I have, give me the details of that person and their company. And you know what? Most people would essentially go to LinkedIn to look at that person's resume. And that's what I call it. It's like walking in my lobby. If you really want to know Jon Ferrara, you need to basically learn about me across multiple points of information. Like a chair. A chair has not one leg. It has at least 3 or 4 or 5. And so to connect with Jon Ferrara, you need to figure out what are the commonalities that we have that you might be able to share in order to earn intimacy and trust with me. And so I nibbled Ken before our meeting, and Nimble told me, of course, his business stuff. He's CEO, founder of Inside Sales, billion-dollar software company. But it told me that he was a assistant scoutmaster for 8 years and had 2 sons who are Eagle Scouts. And you know what, Jamie? I was an assistant scoutmaster for 6 or 7 years, and I have 2 sons who are Eagle Scouts. And that, when I shared it with Ken, earned me immediate intimacy and trust. What do you think of that?
No, Jon, I think of just even the conversations you and I have had on social. We're both car nuts, right? And so, I mean, you just see it in your Instagram photo, like one of the 9 that are in there. I mean, if I wanted to engage you, number one, I know you live in Santa Monica. You're clearly a Dodgers fan. Sorry for you last night. But the reality is I need to find an alternative path to your sphere of influence. Your sphere of influence is life around Santa Monica. You do love classic cars. You take a lot of photos of food. I have to have a plan B around, a value proposition around what I sell. I have to connect with you on a human to human level.
Yes. And so if you look at the technology stack that you need to buy, and we looked at that earlier in regards to what Jamie was using, it involves some type of market automation system, some type of CRM. And then when you get that lead inside the CRM, you need sales intelligence. And so, of course, you can go Google somebody, but I think the biggest cause of failure of CRM is lack of use, because you have to go to the CRM and work for it. And it's really too much work. And I think that there are great tools for sales intelligence, including LinkedIn Sales Navigator, Raintree, and DiscoverOrg. But interestingly enough, Nimble is number 1 in satisfaction, in ROI, and market leadership in sales intelligence, because I think that people love how easy it is to nimble somebody. So let's just nimble James Townshend, okay? So James, I don't know James, Nimble does. And if I wanted to get James' contact info, Nimble has a new feature called Nimble Prospector, which will give you his email, direct phone number, and address, and not only put that into the Nimble system, but because we now bidirectionally synchronize with over 80 of the top social sales and marketing systems with our new integration, built-in integration via PieSync, you can synchronize Nimble with your existing social sales, marketing, customer service, and accounting systems. And I just love the ability to provide salespeople with the tools they need, not only in sales intelligence, but also in sales enablement email tracking, because I think the biggest cause of failure of outreach is not connecting in an authentic and relevant way. Here's an example. This guy outreached to me about connecting to go to a conference that he was doing. Now, he said at the end of his message, if you're an accredited investor or founder or CEO backing, would love to send you a party upgrade to the VIP after party. Well, first off, I'd ignore any email that looked like this because it looks like it's a one-to-many non-personal email. But because I know Adam, I know that he knows that I'm a founder or CEO backing, investor backing, because he's been in meetings with Google, who's one of our investors, with me. He also knows I'm an accredited investor because we're both co-investors in the same company. But because he uses a database that he can't segment based off who somebody is and what their business is about, he sends these blind emails as opposed to an email that comes from his email to my email that's templated with tracking. And today, if you wanted to build market automation, CRM, sales intelligence, and sales enablement, you can go and spend $100,000+ a year to do that, or you can use something like Nimble, which can be your social sales and marketing system, or work within your existing social sales and marketing systems, because we now bidirectionally synchronize with over 50 of the top social sales, marketing, customer service, and accounting applications. And so if you're using something like HubSpot, you could use Nimble inside of HubSpot, which will basically give you the Nimble record inside HubSpot, but take the HubSpot record and put it into Nimble along with all of the other records that are in your existing accounting, customer service, social media applications, so that everybody in your company has a one system of record for relationships. And then that record will go back and work within the applications that you're using for engagement, including your CRM, including your market automation system, including even your accounting system. And as we said before, Jamie, there's gold in the accounting system. And imagine if you could take that one-dimensional email, coco101@gmail, and turn it into a three-dimensional record inside of your database. And so I would love to take you on a journey real quick and show you how we measure ROI and success at Nimble from the social sharing that we do, besides the fact that we generate 100,000 uniques on our website per month and convert at 10% to trial and 20% to paid without any marketing dollars and without any salespeople. And I think it's because of our ability to tie these conversations into connections. And so here's an example of Nimble tying a conversation. This gentleman, Miha, who connected with me on Twitter, Nimble not only logs that inside of the platform, but if I wanted to get his contact info in Nimble, all I have to do is give it the first name, last name, and company domain, and Nimble will enrich that lead with their email, title, phone number, direct phone number, mobile phone number, and address. What do you think of that?
I'm sitting here with Dan on our team and I'm laughing because getting phone numbers has been just pounding my head against a table. And this is fantastic.
So not only do I know that he started following me because all the conversations are linked to there, but I could even go and walk in his digital footprint and begin to add value to his conversation. And when I do reach out, it's going to be a warm call rather than a cold call. And when I do reach out, I'm going to reach out in a relevant, authentic way because I know what he's passionate about. And that the fact that he's connected to me gives me permission to now start reaching out to him. And I'm not going to reach out to him and tell him how great I am or how great Nimble is. I'm going to reach out to learn more about him and how I might be able to help him grow. And so this is the same way that I built a relationship with the head of CRM and data at Disney. So this guy I would have never met without Nimble. So what happened was Theo shouted me out on Twitter when Tiffany Bova said that Salesforce is all about relationships and empowering customer-facing business team members. So Tiffany used to be an analyst at Gartner, and now she's one of the head strategic thought leaders at Salesforce. So she's trying to teach the market about the evolution of CRM. And of course, CRM should be about relationships, but actually it's about reporting and command and control. So Theo basically said, BS. He said, Tiffany, CRM is about command and control. When our sales manager is going to loosen the grip on salespeople. And isn't this what Jon Ferrara has been teaching for the past 5 years and building with Nimble? So that gave me permission to connect with him. So what I did is I nimbled him. And Nimble not only told me that he was the head of CRM and data and Salesforce at Disney, but it gave me his email and his phone number. So I commented on Twitter. I then emailed him and reached out for a connection. And then what happened is that connection shifted from Twitter to email to LinkedIn, where the conversation there, we learned that not only do we live in the same city, but our daughters go to the same middle school. So we then met for breakfast 2 days later, where I let him talk for 45 minutes. And Jamie, if you let somebody talk, you're going to learn so much and they're going to love you. And at the end of the breakfast meeting, we agreed to start working on a project where Nimble will now be brought into Disney. What do you think?
Yeah, what I love about this is you've taken the social world, the digital online world, into the offline world, which is critical to actually securing the sale, so to speak.
Yes.
And to your point, the relationship wouldn't have happened without digital or social. And you found a way to humanize the conversation to the point where you can have an offline conversation and win the business. That's amazing.
And so I really believe that the more digital we get, the more human we need to be. And you need to take these online conversations into offline. And if you do that properly, not only can you attribute the lead effectively, so I've tagged and attributed that lead, and that lead then syncs back to Salesforce with all that attribution and measurement for ROI. But I can also see that he is now starting to become an advocate to Nimble. So it started with him basically saying to Tiffany that he's impressed with Jon Ferrara and Nimble, but now he's basically shouting us out on a regular basis. So we turned a connection into a conversation, into a relationship, into a business deal, and now an advocate who's out there telling the world about our product. And I think this gets to the heart of the modern buying and selling method using social, the sales and technology stack that you need to use to do it, and the fact that relationships and conversations are messy, that they start wherever they start, they shift from one place to another, and ultimately what you need to be able to do is to take all that and centralize it into a database where you can have full reporting, whether you're using Salesforce or you're using HubSpot or you're using something like Nimble for your entire stack in and of itself. What do you think?
No, John, this is fantastic. And what I hope is that everybody got out of this is that, as you said at the beginning, why? You shouldn't have been on the call if you're still trying to convince yourself why you should become digital. I think John just showed you why. But the how, there's little subtle tips in here about the connectivity, and technology alone isn't going to solve your problem. You as a human have to use this technology to your advantage to actually engage people in an authentic way, continue to educate them in a teacher-student type of relationship. But this is great because you've used all of this in such speed. And once you become strong with this, I mean, look at what you're able to, like, how fast you're moving, how fast you're thinking, what you could do in a day by combining all this information. This is fantastic.
And you know what, Jamie, I think that the reason why there's 225 million global businesses and less than 1% use any CRM is because I think that CRMs suck. They're too much work. And I know that because I invented CRM. So basically, before there was Salesforce, before there was Outlook, the world lived in Goldmine and Act. And Goldmine was the team sales and marketing platform. And I think that as things like Siebel evolved and basically got command and control over the contacts that the salespeople had in their Goldmine and their Act, and it became the repository, and then Salesforce took over that mantle, that we really all ended up living inside of Outlook. That Outlook basically became our CRM. But the problem is that when you go to an Outlook record, you don't have contacts on people and companies, and you don't have unification of contacts with the calendar and email and social interactions that you have. So I'm looking at this contact. I don't know anything about Aaron, but with Nimble basically works by layering on top of the tools that you already have in your business, your email, your contacts, your calendar, your social. And now all of your existing sales, marketing, customer service, and accounting applications. So it doesn't matter if you're using another CRM, if you're using some type of other marketing automation tool, that what we can do is we could basically build a team relationship manager for you and your team to have a central database, then use it back in the tools you're using in your email, in your social, in your marketing, or if you're prospecting anywhere. So if I read an article in the Toronto Times and I want to know who Dennis Cam is, it's as easy for me to simply Nimble that person, and Nimble will basically go and build a rich record on that person. And if I want their contact info, all I have to do is ask Nimble, and Nimble will give me everything I need to connect like that. That is magic to business people out there in the field trying to connect and engage effectively and intelligently.
Yeah, John, Ashley on the call had asked, how does Nimble get these people's phone numbers? What if the person isn't expecting your call for you and didn't give you consent? I mean, it's a, I guess that's kind of the certain.
So let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. So basically, there are literally thousands, millions of databases out there in the world, public and private, that you can access to enrich data. And so if you want to know where you can get data, just Google G2 Crowd Sales Intelligence, and there are literally dozens of database programs out there that will sell you name, address, city, state, zip, phone number, email, etc. But just because you have somebody's email or phone number doesn't permit you to outreach to them, especially if you outreach in a non-relevant and authentic way. So let's go back to this email from this guy. If you send blind blast emails, you're not only going to have your emails banned and undeliverable, but you're going to really just build a bad reputation. And so even though Nimble gave me Theo's email, phone number, and contact info, I would not have reached out on a private channel if I didn't feel I had permission to start. And what gave me permission was the fact that Theo talked about me in a certain way and about my brand, which opened the door, which I then connected, and then that channel and conversation shifted from all these different places along. But it's because he basically said that he's impressed with what we're doing and what we're teaching. It gave me permission to outreach. So don't just blind cold call people. You need to make sure that you're doing it in a relevant and effective way. And so I think that this is a great point to open it up for questions. And so let's open up for questions and let's see what we could teach and learn from the audience. Are there any more?
Well, actually, there were a bunch of questions on that same topic because I think, let's face it, one of the core challenges of the seller is there have been email validation tools before, but I think what people really took out of this was, oh my God, like you're taking so many data points and you're building one concise kind of record of truth, so to speak. And the fact that it took people you didn't know and it was able to correlate whether it was just business phone numbers or mobile phones. I think that's where a lot of the questions came from.
Yeah. And so, as I said, you could go as a business and sign up for data sources, and they're all here, Dun & Bradstreet, Raintree, Discover.org, Clearbit, and you can go and pipe these things together. And a subscription to Discover.org is how much a year, Jamie?
It was 20-some thousand, I think, on our end.
Yeah. And so many of these databases are $20,000, $50,000, $100,000 a year in subscription. And what we've done at Nimble is essentially taken the burden off of that from you and built a social sales and marketing system that could either be your complete customer cycle stack or work within the tools that you're using. Because I believe that salespeople have to work too hard to basically turn these dead leads into measurable business outcomes. And we're there to power that customer facing business team member. So if you have a CRM today, you could buy a license of a new version of Nimble, and it's called Nimble Contact. So this is contact management without the CRM, and it's $9 a seat. And if you want to be able to prospect, you can buy data credits for as little as, well, first off, you get data credits automatically with Nimble for each license. But if you want to buy more data credits, you just add on data credits. And for as little as 20 cents per enrichment, you can enrich leads at scale for your business. And I'm just got to say, Jamie, that's a bargain.
I love it. I love it. Well, and Jon, as we get to the top of the hour, what I hope everybody got out of this is you just saw a journey of two entrepreneurs who had to build businesses from scratch. And what they did is we leveraged technology and influencers, and we put it all together to start conversations. And Jon, as you said, for specifically to my business, punching above the weight. I mean, only a couple years ago, we were two guys and a dog. So we had to find ways of getting in front of gentlemen just like yourself and be able to develop relationships. And Jon, thank you so much for showing us under the hood of your business as well, and what has made you grow businesses so successfully. And here's how you can reach out to us. So nimble.com, write care@nimble.com, and you can get 10 free prospector credits. Sales for Life, go to salesforlife.com, go to salesforlife.com/blog. I recommend that you subscribe to it. It is the world's authority on the modern digital seller, on the social seller. And Jon, any parting words?
Well, Jamie, I just want to thank you for your friendship. I think that in the end, we're on this planet to grow our souls by helping other people grow theirs. And whenever I see you and your family out on that lake that you spend most weekends, I know that we share so much of what is truly valuable in life. And it's not about building businesses and making money, because you don't leave this planet with that. You leave this planet with the vibrations of the moment you connected to people you truly care about. And that's why I think that life is more about the 5F: family, friends, food, fun, and fellowships that help you achieve your 3 Ps: passion, plan, and purpose in life. And I know that you share my passion with helping other people grow. That's why you teach and preach on a daily basis, and why I love connecting with you to share our shared passions and inspiration with the people around us. So thanks for the connection.
Well, thank you. And I recommend everybody in the audience connect with Jon and I on whether it's LinkedIn, Twitter, because we are resources that give back to the sales community. So thank you, everybody, for your time. And we'll be passing the recording off as well. Thank you.
Thank you.